Have you ever found yourself trapped in an endless cycle of thoughts? That voice in your head that never stops, bringing worries, judgments, and anxieties. In today's video, we will explore the concept of overthinking through the transformative lens of Eckhart Tolle, author of The Power of Now, while adding a layer of my own experiences as a therapist. Discover how to free yourself from this draining mental pattern and learn to live with more peace and presence in the moment. Stay with us, because what you are about to hear may completely change the way you relate to your mind. We live in an era dominated by thought. From the moment we wake up to the moment we close our eyes, our minds are in constant activity, jumping between past memories, present concerns, and future anxieties. Often, this incessant flow of thoughts consumes us, disconnecting us from the present moment and robbing us of inner peace. But what if I told you that this thought pattern is not just a habit, but a profound addiction? Thought is actually one of humanity's most underestimated addictions. It's easy to recognize the dangers of substances like alcohol, drugs, or even technological addiction. However, the addiction to thinking is much harder to identify because it is rooted in our perception of who we are. Thinking incessantly seems natural, almost essential for survival, but in reality, it is an invisible prison we create for ourselves. These excessive thoughts often have their roots in emotional impacts you have experienced throughout your life. Many times, these thought patterns are deeply connected with traumas, unresolved experiences, and limiting beliefs formed during childhood. Our minds, in fact, function as reflections of what we have learned and internalized over the years, and many of these lessons are unconscious. Although these thoughts seem to be present-day concerns, they actually have roots in the past, in situations that were not fully understood or processed. What happens is that no matter how much we try to ignore or suppress them, these emotional impacts from the past continue to influence how we react to the world around us. That's why, to break the cycle of overthinking and create true transformation, it is necessary to revisit and reframe these past experiences. This process of reframing does not simply mean forgetting or ignoring what happened, but rather changing how we relate to those events. By bringing these experiences to light and reviewing them with a new perspective, we can release the emotional weight they carry and thus change their impact on our present. It is a path of deep self-awareness that not only allows us to understand the roots of these thoughts, but also gives us the opportunity to rewrite our story, creating healthier and more constructive mental patterns. Therefore, I recommend that you allow yourself to revisit your past in a gentle and careful way, with the intention of understanding and transforming the patterns that still influence your emotions and thoughts. By doing this, you begin to realize that by changing these patterns on an emotional and mental level, you are also shaping your future in a more conscious and balanced way. Why is thinking an addiction? Thinking can be considered an addiction because it operates compulsively and repetitively, often without our awareness or control. Like other addictions, such as alcohol or smoking, it offers a false sense of relief or purpose. But deep down, it keeps us trapped in a cycle that consumes our attention and energy. This compulsion to think pulls us away from the present moment, disconnecting us from our essence and keeping us stuck in worries about the future or regrets about the past. One of the reasons thinking becomes addictive is our identification with it. Many people believe that they are what they think, creating a dependent relationship with their minds. This generates a cycle in which thoughts become a constant source of validation, even when they are negative or self-destructive. The mind seeks meaning and control through thought, but ironically, the more we think, the more we drift away from clarity and peace. Moreover, compulsive thinking triggers a kind of mental reward, similar to what occurs in other addictions. When we solve a problem or reach a mental conclusion, we feel a momentary relief. However, this relief is fleeting, and soon we are pulled into another stream of thoughts. Thus, the mind continues creating scenarios and problems to solve, keeping us constantly busy. The presence of thoughts is not the problem itself, but rather our inability to detach from them. This dependence on incessant thinking generates anxiety, stress, and even emotional illnesses. We remain trapped in mental stories we create, constantly reliving past situations or worrying about future events that may never happen. This pattern prevents us from experiencing the fullness of the present moment, where life truly happens. True freedom begins when we recognize the addiction to thought and understand that it does not define who we are. Thinking is a powerful tool when used consciously, but it becomes an obstacle when we allow it to dominate our lives. Like any addiction, compulsive thinking can be observed and released, allowing us to live more fully and connected to the now. Clearly, thinking is essential for survival and conflict resolution. However, when we are constantly overwhelmed by excessive thoughts, we lose the balance needed to experience life as it unfolds. Thinking is a gift, but like any powerful tool, it must be used wisely. When we learn to balance moments of thought with moments of presence, we find harmony that allows us to live more fully and consciously. When we are constantly immersed in excessive thoughts, we lose the ability to be fully present in the moment. Our minds jump from one problem to another, from a concern about the future to regret over the past, creating an endless cycle of restlessness. This not only disconnects us from the now, but also overloads our mind and body, leading to elevated levels of stress, anxiety, and even mental fatigue. Overthinking prevents us from enjoying the simplicity of life. Instead of living the direct experience of the moment, we find ourselves trapped in analysis, judgments, and expectations that often do not even reflect reality. For example, while having a cup of coffee, our mind might be preoccupied with an upcoming meeting or replaying a past conversation, robbing us of the opportunity to appreciate that unique instant. Furthermore, excessive thoughts can create a false sense of control. We often believe that by constantly thinking, we are better preparing for the future or solving problems more effectively. In reality, this leads to unproductive rumination, where we mentally circle around without reaching conclusions or taking concrete actions. The solution is not to eliminate thoughts, but to learn to use them consciously. This means recognizing when thoughts are helpful and when they are merely creating noise. Developing the ability to observe the mind without identifying with it is an essential step. This practice, known as presence or mindfulness, helps us create a space between ourselves and our thoughts, allowing us to choose which thoughts to follow and which to let pass. Jesus taught us something similar in his words, "Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." Matthew 6:34, suggesting that we should focus on the now instead of burdening ourselves with future worries. By living in the present, we diminish the power of excessive thoughts and reclaim our inner peace. Thus, thinking is a gift, but like any powerful tool, it needs to be used wisely. When we learn to balance moments of thought with moments of presence, we find a harmony that allows us to live more fully and consciously. This is the key to transforming the mind from a demanding master into a faithful servant. The addiction to thought not only robs us of our attention, but also profoundly affects our emotional and spiritual health. It keeps us stuck in regrets about the past or fears about the future, while the present moment, the only place where life truly happens, goes unnoticed. Ultimately, overthinking disconnects us from ourselves, from others, and from God. Jesus warned us about this in his teachings, He said, "Do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries." Matthew 6:34. This message is a powerful reminder that life happens here and now, not in the mental scenarios created by an overactive mind. The first step to dealing with the addiction to thought is to recognize it. Have you ever found yourself lost in a chain of thoughts that started with something simple and ended in an avalanche of worries? This happens because thought has a magnetism. One thought pulls another, which pulls yet another, until we find ourselves completely absorbed. Just like an addiction to substances or harmful habits, compulsive thinking has a cycle that seems hard to break. We often hear the phrase, "I think, therefore I am." But do we truly exist just because we think? Or is the true essence of who we are beyond this endless flow of thoughts? This is the big question we need to explore. Just as the addiction to thought imprisons us, there is a path to freedom. Presence. Jesus not only warned us about the dangers of living in the past or the future, but he also gave us a solution. He said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. This invitation is a call to set aside the weight of incessant thoughts and surrender to the present moment. Presence is the antidote to compulsive thinking. It is a state of conscious alertness, where we are not dominated by the mind, but observe thoughts without identifying with them. It is an experience of freedom, where we find peace by connecting with the simplicity of the now. The power of presence lies in its simplicity, but also in its depth. Being present does not mean just being here physically, but being fully aware and connected with the current moment, without being dragged by the incessant flow of thoughts. It is the ability to experience the now without the filter of worries, judgments, or expectations that often disconnect us from reality. When we are truly present, thoughts do not disappear entirely, but lose the control they usually have over us. They cease to be a constant noise and become something we simply observe without identifying with or being dominated by them. This state of conscious alertness connects us to a deeper dimension of who we are, beyond the mind and its endless narratives. The practice of presence does not require us to stop thinking, but to change the way we relate to our thoughts. Instead of being carried away by them, we learn to observe them and recognize them as simple events that arise in the mind. This creates an inner space that allows us to consciously choose where to place our attention. This inner space also reconnects us with divinity. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Luke 17:21, suggesting that the peace and fullness we seek are not found in external circumstances, but in a state of present awareness. When we are in the now, free from the weight of incessant thoughts, we experience this divine connection more fully and genuinely. Presence also transforms our relationship with daily situations. When we are attentive to the moment, even the simplest tasks, like hearing a bird sing or feeling the wind on our face, become rich and meaningful experiences. Life ceases to be a race of thoughts and becomes a dance of experiences lived with wholeness and gratitude. True liberation begins when we understand that we are not our thoughts, but the consciousness that observes them. When we stop identifying with the mental whirlwind and learn to connect with the present, a new world opens up before us. The addiction to thought loses its power, and we find a profound space of peace where the now becomes enough, and our divine essence is revealed. As Jesus taught, when we surrender our worries to the present moment, we experience the relief our soul so desperately seeks. True emotional healing, spiritual peace, and mental freedom do not come from fighting thoughts, but from acceptance and conscious presence. The path to transformation is within you, waiting to be discovered. Free yourself from the endless cycle and live the fullness of the now. Peace is here and now. You just need to allow yourself to experience it. Now, I invite you to take the next step on this journey of self-discovery and transformation. How do you deal with your excessive thoughts in your daily life? Have you managed to experience presence in the current moment? Share your reflections in the comments below, and let's create a space for exchange and support together. If you felt that this content was helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more insights that can transform your life. Your journey to peace starts now, and I'm here to walk with you. Let's live more fully together.